Okay, so I've had a couple comments in the past asking me to cover this game or at least give my thoughts on the whole situation. However, I did hold back because number one, the game has a lot of controversy surrounding it and I'm not particularly a drama channel, so that's something we usually don't talk about. And number two, it does claim to have monster taming elements, but isn't really a monster taming game or even a Monlight, but instead an MMO that happens to have some monster taming. Now, we do cover games like that once in a while, basically just anything I think is cool, but this wasn't really one of those things. As this situation sort of blows out of proportion and as I keep getting people asking if this game's legit or whatever, I did think that this video would be important to make. So in today's video, I'll be going over the Kickstarter campaign, discuss some of, definitely not all of the controversy surrounding the game. There are entire video series going over that by other creators. I'm not even kidding. Like there are literal playlists going over all the problems with this game. And we'll be discussing what my thoughts are and why I don't think the game is going to be coming to fruition, at least not with what they're claiming to have put into it. Now that said, sit back, relax, and let's just do it. Okay, so before I reluctantly get into this, I want to shout out a few channels that have been covering this controversy and are 100% more well-versed in the intricacies of it than me. I'm going to be giving you guys my base level sort of critique and my thoughts from someone who is looking through this campaign for the first time as a whole, but has been following the whole situation pretty much since its conception. If you want to see videos that are going over the nitty-gritty stuff like the history of the developers, exactly where some of these stock assets that are present within the game actually come from, a detailed look at the alpha and sort of what's going on in that, and how the community has hired literal children to moderate for them, and all that stuff, I highly recommend checking out the following channels. You have Kira TV, you have Callum Upton, my personal favorite is Josh Strife Hayes, and even Skiazo, someone who was creating videos for them and working with them as a creator, and then has come out to say, okay guys, like this is a scam. I will say everything in this video is alleged. I cannot prove the intention of anybody. I cannot prove if this game will come to fruition or not. I'm just giving you guys my personal opinion based on some of the evidence and based on some of what we've seen. That said, some of these channels are actually smaller than our little channel here, so if you do find what they're doing interesting or like their content, definitely show your support by subscribing. I'm sure it'll really help them a lot. Anyways, that said, we're going to read off some of what I think are some red flags and then go into what exactly has sort of transpired within the last few weeks. So here we go. Dreamworld, the last game you'll ever play. The Dream, the infinite open world MMO, sculpt the world and create with a massive catalog of objects, one world, millions of players, explore thousands of unique biomes, fight and tame Dreamworld's incredible creatures, which later on it goes to say that there are thousands. So right off the bat, I don't have an issue with an infinitely generated world. This is something we see in games like Minecraft, or if you want to be more on topic to this channel, Sky Climbers. So it's not something that I doubt to be possible by any means. The issue for me really starts with the third bullet, which states one single world, millions of players. Now, firstly, no offense, but assuming you're going to have millions of people playing your game right off the bat is kind of cocky, not gonna lie. I mean, not to mention the fact that you're saying this is the last game you'll ever play, but sensationalism aside, this has never been seen. To compare, World of Warcraft is divided into several different servers which can hold thousands of players, not millions. We're talking the biggest MMO in the world, backed by mega corporations, and two indie devs with seemingly no commercial experience have somehow figured out how to dwarf these AAA studios in terms of their technology in a seemingly infinite open world, mind you. In terms of experience, one of the devs stated to have 9 years of personal experience with game development, which to me doesn't mean much, because if we go by the personal metric, I've been using GameMaker, GameMaker 7 since I was 12. I still oftentimes mess around in GameMaker, and I have been for years, so by that logic, I would have 15 years game development experience, and I'm telling you right now, I could not make a game with millions of people in a single server. So for me, that's an immediate red flag with the over-promising, it seems, but not only will they do this, on top of that, there will be thousands, I kid you not, thousands of biomes, which a biome is a different landscape. Essentially, this world only has like 5 or 6 biomes in total. So I'm not sure how they're going to come up with thousands in an infinitely generated world, because that's going to require tons of assets. Think about it. Like, I know they had like a candy land or whatever, so they're counting that as a biome. I'll give it to them. But they're gonna have to have like a bunch of assets for Candyland, a bunch of assets for, I don't know, Chocolate Land, a bunch of aspects for Hooland. Like, they're gonna have to have all these assets for all these different places, and to me it just seems unfeasible. Like, you're already saying you can have millions, so at least 2 million people in a server. You're already saying you're gonna have thousands of these biomes, which means you're gonna need tens of thousands of assets. It's just, to me, this sounds ridiculous, especially when we get to the Kickstarter goal, which we'll get into in a minute. Next, we get to the monster taming aspect, which is the biggest reason why I decided to cover this, and apparently there will be thousands of these creatures. Now, I don't know about you guys, but Sky Climbers having 400 monsters, with their game being in development for many years, and it not hosting 1 million people, or even being an MMO for that matter, was something that I and many others thought was amazing. Like, 400 creatures in their game is nothing to scoff at. But this claim of thousands by itself already seems like a stretch, even if you disregard the millions of players and servers, the thousands of biomes, and all that other stuff. But now we have more monsters than Kindred Fates, Sky Climbers, Pokemon, and maybe even Digimon combined, which to me seems like a little bit of a stretch for 2 indie devs to be able to handle on their own. I'd be skeptical if this game was being made by AAA devs, let alone some indies with little commercial experience. Also, can we take a second look at these monsters? You have a Nintendog hanging out with this magical mushroom or whatever, and just everything else here just looks completely different in terms of style and in terms of how detailed they are. It's obviously just various assets being thrown together. Now, don't get me wrong, I totally understand that when you're creating a game, you will use default or placeholder assets at first to get the game's systems working, and then you'll sort of tackle the art and stuff like that. But what's weird to me is that apparently one of the devs is like a designer or something, and not to mention that if this was the case, then the game is far too early for a Kickstarter. Furthermore, they're using one of the default character models for Unreal or Unity or whatever, and apparently, according to people that know a lot more about this than me, all of the assets they're using, or at least 90% of them, are 3D assets that are bought from stores, and apparently within the last 8 months that they've been developing this game, all the assets seen were on sale at some point. That's a claim I've heard. I haven't been able to verify it for myself, but like I said, plenty of videos going over that. This goes past just the models. Apparently the physics, the mining, the character putting their hand over their face in the snow, apparently that's all part of asset packs and wasn't actually coded in by the developers. This is all just default stuff, allegedly. I always try to have an open mind when I look at games, but I can't help but feel like this game is not coming out, and there's more evidence to suggest this than just the Kickstarter seeming ridiculous in its claims. The developers have been banning anyone from their Discord who has any sort of questions or skepticism regarding the game. It turned out that one of the creators had lied about why his fiance had left him, which was an emotional appeal that was used for the Kickstarter, which, if they're willing to lie about that, what else are they lying for? Blah, blah, blah. And then on top of that, when the alpha did come out, it's extremely buggy, laggy. The models aren't properly collided. You can leave the map without any sort of hesitation. Like, it's not even an alpha. It's like worse than the pre-alpha from what Skiazos has said. The game was funded for $64,000 USD, which was 6 times over its original goal, which again seems to be very odd for an MMO, especially considering MMOs specifically are very expensive to make, taking millions, if not hundreds of millions of dollars to make. But they state that they already have backing, which begs the question, why do they even need a Kickstarter for such a minuscule amount of money? And furthermore, there have been claims of there being some sort of insider relationship between one of the devs and the people funding them, but again, everything's alleged. Another thing is that none of the backer rewards actually give out a full game, and the alpha is the only thing that's promised on these. So I mean, they might even technically be able to get away with just publishing the alpha, though I'm not really sure about the legality on the situation in the country that they're in, but it is definitely a major red flag to me. So I don't want to dwell on this too much. This is basically why I didn't want to cover this game or really have talked about it at all. Everything is alleged. I can't say for sure if it's a scam. I'm not a mind reader. These could just be 2 people that are in over their heads, but judging from what we've seen with some of the lies, I didn't even mention some of the things that have happened. Apparently, to get access to the alpha, you had to recruit 2 people, making this like a MLM friggin' body by Vi scheme. Like, you know, you got an associate program, whatever, like one of those pyramid schemes. Apparently, they just ban everybody from Discord who disagrees with them. I had mentioned the fiance thing. That was like a whole big thing. She had to come out and make a video about how what he said wasn't entirely true. And there's just a whole like rabbit hole of stuff. So definitely check out those other YouTubers. I don't think that I'm going to be making another video about this, but what I will say is that the alpha is in no state to be played by people. Like, there's like game alphas, which are like a vertical slice of a game, and then there's a 2 FPS wasteland, which is what I see here. So yeah, guys, definitely let me know what you guys think about the game in the description. Honestly, like I said, unless anything crazy happens regarding it, this will be the only time I really make a full video about it. But I figured that since they were promising monster taming aspects, I'd try to protect my community from at least what appears to be major red flags. I hope you guys do have a great day, and please stay safe out there. Peace.